What do you do when your own sister humiliates you at her wedding after you sacrificed everything to make it perfect for her? My name is Anna Turner, 28 years old, and I run a small but successful event planning business that I've built from the ground up. You might think that attending my sister Bella's wedding would be a joyful and proud moment for me, especially considering that I plan weddings for a living. But that night turned into one of the most painful experiences of my life. Let me tell you how it all went down. Bella, my older sister, is 30 and has always been the golden child in our family. Growing up, she was the one everyone admired, beautiful, confident, and popular. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, blending into the background. My parents always seemed to shower more attention on Bella's achievements, leaving me to feel invisible most of the time. But I never let it affect me. I worked harder, saved my money, and built a life for myself without anyone's help. When Bella got engaged to Chris, she immediately set her sights on a lavish wedding, one far beyond her means. I found out from our mom that Bella had maxed out her credit cards and had no savings left to cover the big event. Although my parents were well off, they couldn't help her much with the expenses. At that point, I should have walked away. But family loyalty and love for my sister got the better of me. Without telling anyone, I secretly paid for most of the wedding. I covered the venue, catering, flowers, and even the designer dress Bella wore that day. I thought I was doing something selfless, something she would appreciate. How wrong I was. The ceremony was beautiful, and everything went smoothly at first. Guests were dancing, laughing, and enjoying the fancy appetizers. I felt so proud, knowing I had made it all happen. But then came the moment that shattered everything. Bella stood in the middle of the ballroom, glowing in her white gown, surrounded by her friends. I was walking over to congratulate her when she spotted me. Her smile instantly faded, replaced by a scowl. "What are you doing here, Chloe?" she sneered, her voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. I froze, confused. "I'm just here to congratulate you." She rolled her eyes. "I don't need you here ruining my special day. You've done enough, just leave." My cheeks flushed as I heard the whispers around us. Guests turned their heads, their curious eyes piercing through me like daggers. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to say something, to explain myself, but the words wouldn't come. Bella's voice grew louder. "Get out of here! I can't stand you being here for another second." I stood there, stunned, unable to believe that my own sister was humiliating me in front of everyone, on a day I had worked so hard to make perfect for her. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Without a word, I turned and walked out of the ballroom, the sound of whispers and laughter echoing behind me like a storm cloud. Once I reached the parking lot, I let the tears flow. Sitting in my car, I sobbed uncontrollably as everything I'd sacrificed hit me all at once: my time, my money, my pride. And this was how she repaid me. But in that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I pulled out my phone, logged into my bank account, and canceled all the pending payments for the wedding expenses. The balance left for the caterers, photographers, and venue? Gone. Bella wanted me out of her wedding? Fine. But she had no idea what was about to happen next. With a deep breath, I wiped my tears and drove home. Tomorrow, I thought, the real chaos would begin. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls and text messages from my mom, dad, and Bella. My phone kept buzzing nonstop. I rolled over in bed, debating whether I should ignore them or face the storm head-on. After everything Bella had said, I didn't feel like talking, but I also knew my silence would only make things worse. Finally, I sighed and picked up my phone. I scrolled through the messages, each one angrier than the last. Mom: "Chloe, what did you do? The wedding was a disaster after you left." Dad: "We need to talk immediately. Call me." Bella: "You ruined everything. Everything. I'll never forgive you." I rubbed my temples and groaned. Good, I thought. Let her be mad. She deserved every bit of it. I wasn't the villain here, and I wasn't about to let them paint me as one. Just as I was getting out of bed, my doorbell rang. I threw on a sweatshirt and went to answer it, expecting a package delivery or a neighbor. But when I opened the door, I saw Bella standing there in her wedding dress, makeup smeared and hair a tangled mess. "What do you want?" I asked, folding my arms across my chest. She barged past me without waiting for an invitation. "You have some nerve!" she shouted, her heels clicking furiously against the floor. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I shut the door and turned to face her. "Yes, I do. I stopped paying for your wedding after you humiliated me in front of everyone." Bella's eyes widened in shock. "You're joking!" "Nope," I said, leaning against the wall. "The caterers packed up and left because they didn't get their final payment. The photographers stopped taking pictures, and the venue owner was probably waiting to kick everyone out the minute the clock struck midnight." "You're insane!" she yelled, pacing back and forth. Pacing. Do you know how embarrassing that was for me? The guests had no food, no music, and no photographer to capture the rest of the night? I smirked. Sounds like a disaster. But that's not my problem anymore. Bella's face turned a deep shade of red, her anger practically radiating from her. "You're my sister! You were supposed to help me, not ruin everything!" she spat. I took a step closer, narrowing my eyes at her. "I did help you! I paid for your entire wedding without you even knowing because you couldn't afford it. And how do you repay me? By throwing me out like I'm some unwanted guest." My voice was steady, but the anger simmering underneath was unmistakable. She opened her mouth to retort but hesitated. For a brief moment, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes, but it vanished just as quickly as it came. "You should have kept your mouth shut and finished what you started," she muttered bitterly. "Not a chance," I shot back, my voice firm. "You've taken advantage of me for the last time." Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen. It was a call from Mom. With a sigh, I answered. "Chloe, what's going on between you and Bella? You need to fix this," Mom said, her voice sharp with concern. "The family is falling apart right now." "I'm not fixing anything," I replied, my voice resolute. "Bella made her choice when she kicked me out of the wedding. Now she can clean up her own mess." "Don't be selfish," Mom snapped. "You've always been the responsible one. You can't just abandon your sister like this." I clenched my fist around the phone, my frustration boiling over. Selfish? I've spent my entire life being the responsible one. I've picked up the pieces of her mistakes, sacrificed my time, my money, everything. But this time, I'm done. Bella can fix her own problems. I hung up before Mom could say another word. Bella stood there speechless, her mouth hanging open. "You're really not going to help, are you?" she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. "No," I said coldly, my gaze unwavering. "And here's some advice. Next time you think about humiliating someone, make sure they're not the one paying your bills." Without waiting for a response, I walked to the door, opening it wide. She hesitated for a moment, then stormed out, slamming the door behind her with such force that the whole house seemed to shake. Later that day, I tried to move on from the disaster of the wedding. I focused on my own things, hoping to forget the nightmare of that day. Just as I was about to settle in for a quiet evening, my phone buzzed again. This time, my heart skipped a beat when I saw the message. It was from Chris, Bella's new husband. "Chris, we need to talk. I found out something about Bella, and you're not going to believe it." My pulse quickened. What could he have discovered? Had Bella been hiding something even worse than her financial mess? My gut told me this wasn't just about a ruined wedding. This was something much bigger. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "I'm listening." Within minutes, my phone buzzed again, this time with an incoming call. I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing with possibilities, before I finally answered. "Hello?" "Chloe, it's worse than you think," Chris said, his voice low and serious. "I didn't know who else to call. Can we meet in person?" My stomach nodded. "Yes, sure. Where?" "Coffee shop on Maple Street. In an hour," he replied. I agreed, hung up, and quickly changed into something presentable. As I grabbed my keys and stepped outside, my mind raced. What could be so bad that Chris had to reach out to me, his wife's sister, the day after their wedding? An hour later, I walked into the small coffee shop, scanning the room until I saw Chris sitting at a corner table. His normally confident posture was replaced by slumped shoulders and a tired expression. As I approached, he looked up and gestured for me to sit. "Thanks for coming," he said, rubbing his temples. "What's going on, Chris? What did you find out?" I asked, leaning in. He let out a heavy sigh. "Last night, after the chaos at the wedding, I went back to the hotel alone. Bella stayed behind to deal with her family, but something felt off. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't being honest with me. So, I did something I probably shouldn't have." I raised an eyebrow. "What did you do?" "I went through her laptop," he admitted. "I found emails, bank statements, and, well, let's just say Bella has been hiding a lot more than her financial problems." "What did you find?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Chris pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a series of screenshots. As I scrolled through them, my eyes widened in shock. Bella had been using my money, the money I had sent to vendors for her wedding, to pay off personal debts and fund extravagant purchases, designer clothes, luxury vacations, spa treatments, all while pretending to be broke. "She drained almost everything you paid," Chris said. "That's why the vendors didn't get their final payments. She spent it before they could claim it." I felt a wave of nausea. "So she knew all along. She never needed my help, did she?" "Not at first," Chris admitted. "But once the payments started coming in, she saw it as an opportunity to splurge. She figured you wouldn't find out because you always clean up her messes." I clenched my fists under the table, trying to keep my composure. "I can't believe this. After everything I did for her, she used me." Chris nodded grimly. "It gets worse. I also found messages between Bella and a guy named David." My heart dropped to my stomach. David. My ex. The one who had cheated on me. "What do you mean? What were they talking about?" Chris's jaw tightened, his frustration clear. "Bella invited him to the wedding behind your back. She wanted to set up some kind of accidental reunion. I think she thought it would be funny to watch you squirm." I felt like I couldn't breathe. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. My own sister, not only had she stolen my money, but she had also tried to humiliate me by bringing my cheating ex to my wedding. "She's been lying to everyone, Chloe," Chris said softly, his voice filled with regret. "And now, I don't know what to do. I married someone I barely know." I sat in stunned silence, processing everything. Bella's betrayal was deeper than I could have imagined. But I knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to get away with it. "I know exactly what to do," I said, my voice steely with determination. "I'm going to expose her." That night, I sat down at my desk, determined to take action. I gathered every financial document I had related to the wedding receipts, canceled payments, proof of Bella's excessive spending. I even included the screenshots of the messages Chris had found. When I had everything in order, I sent it all to a lawyer friend of mine, hoping to build a case for financial fraud. The next step was dealing with my parents. I knew they would defend Bella, but this time I had the upper hand. The following morning, I showed up at my parents' house unannounced. My mom opened the door, a frown appearing on her face as she saw me standing there. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said, brushing past her into the living room. Bella was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that usual look of annoyance. My dad sat in his recliner, sipping his coffee. Bella didn't look up at first, but then rolled her eyes. "Oh, great. What now? Did you come to ruin more things?" I smiled, holding up the thick folder of evidence. "Actually, I came to ruin your lies." Bella's smirk faltered as I dropped the folder onto the coffee table. What is this? Proof that you stole my money to pay off your debts and fund your shopping spree, I said calmly. And before you deny it, I already sent copies to my lawyer. My mom gasped, grabbing the folder and flipping through the documents. Bella, is this true? Bella stammered, her face draining of color. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just needed help. I cut her off, my voice cold. You didn't need help, you took advantage of me. And if you think I'm going to let this slide, think again. My lawyer will be in touch. Bella looked like she was about to say something more, but the words failed her. My mom, still in shock, stood frozen, the weight of the truth settling in. I turned to leave without another word, knowing this was just the beginning. My dad stood up, glaring at Bella. You did this? After all the help Chloe gave you? Bella burst into tears. I didn't think she'd find out. I thought I could fix everything before it got this bad. I shook my head. It's too late for that. You made your choices. As I turned to leave, Bella grabbed my arm. Please, Chloe, don't take this to court. I'll pay you back. I'll do anything. I pulled my arm free. You should have thought about that before you lied to me. With that, I walked out the door, leaving her sobbing in the living room. Later that week, I filed a formal complaint with my lawyer and began the process of taking legal action. Bella's wedding disaster had been only the beginning. What she didn't know was that the money she owed me wasn't the only thing at stake. Her reputation, her marriage, and her future were all about to crumble. I wasn't the quiet, forgiving sister anymore. I was the sister who was done being taken for granted, and I was ready to make sure Bella learned her lesson the hard way. A week later, the legal papers were served. Bella's reaction was exactly what I expected. More tears, angry phone calls, and desperate pleas for forgiveness. But this time, I didn't pick up. I was done listening to her empty promises. Instead, I stayed focused on the legal process. My lawyer assured me that the evidence we had, canceled payments, bank transfers, and screenshots of her personal purchases, would be enough to hold Bella accountable in court. The charges weren't just financial. Bella had committed fraud by misusing funds intended for legitimate purposes. Her husband, Chris, had already moved out of their apartment after discovering her lies. The wedding disaster and financial betrayal were too much for him. The last I heard, he had filed for an annulment, claiming he had been deceived about her financial situation before their marriage. Even my parents couldn't defend her anymore. I overheard them arguing on the phone one night, my mom crying as she blamed herself for raising Bella to believe she could do no wrong. But the most satisfying moment came when Bella herself finally broke. A few days before the court hearing, she showed up at my doorstep. This time she wasn't dressed in designer clothes. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, her hair unkempt. She wasn't the proud, spoiled sister I had known. She was desperate. Chloe, she whispered, her voice cracking. Please, can we talk? I stepped aside, letting her in. She sat on the couch, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. I've lost everything, she said, tears streaming down her face. Chris is gone, Mom and Dad won't even look at me, and now I'm going to lose in court. I can't fix this on my own. For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but then I reminded myself of the humiliation Bella had put me through, and the years of manipulation I had endured. What do you expect me to do, Bella? I asked, crossing my arms. She sobbed harder, her voice breaking. I don't know. I'm sorry, Chloe. I know I've been horrible to you. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, don't ruin my life completely. I sighed deeply and sat down across from her, studying her. Bella, I didn't ruin your life. You did that all on your own. All I'm doing is holding you accountable for your actions. She wiped her tears and nodded in agreement. I know, and I'm willing to pay you back every penny. Please, just don't let this go to court. If it becomes public, I'll never recover. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, contemplating. I could take the easy route, let the case proceed, knowing it would destroy Bella's reputation. or I could offer her a chance to make things right. After everything she'd done, I was torn between seeking revenge or finding closure. Finally, I spoke. If you're serious about fixing this, here's what I want. You'll pay me back every cent you owe with interest. You'll work for me in my event planning company until the debt is paid off. No special treatment, no shortcuts. Bella's eyes widened in disbelief. Work for you? Yes, I replied firmly. You'll see what it's like to work hard and earn your way, and if you ever try to take advantage of me again, the court case is back on the table. She nodded slowly, her face filled with determination. I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes. The next few months were a whirlwind. Bella started working with me as an assistant, handling errands, making calls, and dealing with the stress of the job I had managed on my own for years. She didn't complain, at least not to my face. It was clear to me that the experience was humbling her in ways nothing else ever had before. During this time, I also reconnected with my lawyer friend, who had been incredibly supportive throughout the ordeal. He helped me set up a legally binding repayment plan with Bella, ensuring she followed through on her commitment. Chris finalized the annulment and moved on with his life, leaving Bella to deal with the consequences of her actions. My parents, while still distant, were slowly beginning to forgive her. As for me, I felt lighter than I had in years. I wasn't burdened by Bella's manipulation or my family's expectations anymore. I had taken control of my life, and it felt good. 1 year later, I stood in my office overlooking the city skyline, reflecting on how much had changed. My business had grown, and I had expanded into corporate events and charity galas. Bella had worked hard to repay her debt and was now starting to rebuild her life. She walked into my office, holding a file of client contracts. "Here's everything you asked for," she said, her tone polite but cautious. "Thanks," I replied, taking the file. Before she left, she paused at the door. "Chloe, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me a second chance." I smiled faintly, feeling a mix of emotions. "Just don't waste it." She nodded and left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I had been through betrayal, heartbreak, and humiliation, but I had come out stronger. This time, I wasn't just the quiet, overlooked sister. I was the sister who stood up for herself, and I would never let anyone take advantage of me again. How do you react when your own sister betrays you after everything you've done for her? And what do you do when you realize the person you've helped the most is the one who's taken advantage of you the most? Anna's story is one of betrayal, resilience, and standing up for what's right. As a successful event planner, Anna poured her time, money, and heart into making her sister Bella's wedding perfect. But when Bella humiliated Anna publicly, everything changed. Anna, who had always been the responsible and forgiving sister, finally snapped. Instead of caving to Bella's manipulative demands, Anna took control of the situation, exposing Bella's financial misdeeds and holding her accountable for the lies and betrayal. Anna's decision to expose Bella wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming her dignity and not letting her sister continue to take advantage of her kindness. It's easy to justify helping family, but Anna realized that sometimes the people closest to us can be the most toxic. Bella's financial fraud and her attempt to humiliate Anna weren't just mistakes. They were calculated actions that left Anna with no choice but to take drastic measures. In the end, Anna's strength wasn't just about standing up to Bella, but about finding her voice and no longer letting others define her. Do you think Anna did the right thing by taking legal action and holding Bella accountable? How would you have handled a similar situation with your family? If you've ever been taken advantage of, remember this: it's never too late to take back control of your life. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up to family in order to protect your own well-being?